Tonight, the American agriculture industry on high alert as a series of troubling new cases of highly infectious avian flu hit poultry farms, dairy producers, and now people. The nation's largest egg supplier destroying nearly 2 million chickens after birds at one of its Texas facilities tested positive.
It's highly dangerous to humans, although it has never been shown to be easily transmissible between people.
Now, the first U.S. case of a person suspected of catching this version of bird flu from a cow has been reported in Texas. Officials say the patient, a dairy employee who worked near infected cows, wasn't hospitalized and experienced only minor symptoms. The news comes as the highly contagious bird flu has spread to dairy cattle in at least 6 states. At Cedar Ridge Egg Farm outside Dallas,
it can spread anywhere.
Owner Raouf Wahid has strict safety measures in place for his 14,000 chickens, but the risk remains high.
If just one of your birds gets infected with avian flu, what happens to the flock?
They will all be destroyed.
Officials say the risk to human health remains low, but stress eggs or poultry should be cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees to kill any bacteria or viruses. The most immediate impact, though, may be to your grocery bill. Egg prices, which have already doubled since 2020, could be inching higher if this current outbreak continues to spread.
And tonight, officials warn that backyard or even pet chickens are at risk if they come into contact with wild birds carrying the virus, but do not suggest that this is all the start of a new pandemic.
This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. I have to be very careful about how I word things in this video, so bear with me, but it's very important you understand the messaging behind this specific topic. Now, we all have heard and continue to hear about the avian flu, the bird flu. We've heard about it for the last couple of years, how it continues to go on and on and on, right? One of the things, obviously, everybody's going to, talk about when they hear this is the supply chain. And that is a big thing. But there's other things in play that everybody needs to be aware of, and I'm going to bring your attention to it in this video. So let's start with the obvious, right? We hear about the avian flu. The first thing we think of is what? Well, they're going to euthanize chickens. They're not going to, let us eat chickens anymore. They're going to kill off chickens on farms, just like they've been doing with cattle. And of course, that also means eggs. And conveniently, that story as well that's going around is about the largest egg producer in the U.S. finding the bird flu in chickens in Texas and Michigan, thus halting production of eggs, which will create an egg shortage. It starts there, but the story continues, okay? Now, a lot of people, their mind immediately goes to disease X. The first thing a lot of people are thinking about is this going to be the birdemic? Are they going to actually convince a lot of these sheeple out there that they actually need to go get a magic potion in their bodies to prevent them from getting a flu that always was just in birds, but now apparently can go to cows and even human beings? Are they going to be dumb enough to fall for it? Well, the answer is, of course, there's going to be a certain group of people who will go and do whatever they're told, period. But they know that they're not going to be able to convince people to go and get a shot for the bird flu. They'll release one, people will go and get it, but it's not going to be disease X. But what is big to know about all of this is that this doesn't just have major implications on the food supply chain and the grocery store. It has major implications on the rules and regulations going forward with chicken farming. Because what they're going to do, and if you've been quietly paying attention, and I have been, what they're going to do is they're going to make it, to nip this avian flu in the butt, they're going to mandate and make it an absolute requirement for all owners of chickens and all chicken farms to make sure that their chickens actually have an influenza magic potion inside of it. And you might say, oh, well, what's the big deal, right? Animals get shots, I guess, right? We could prevent then we don't have to kill off the food supply chain. Then we don't have to kill all these chickens off. We could just give them a magic potion and then they'll be immune to it and we can keep giving it to them, right? Well, here's the catch. The scientists that we're speaking of are using CRISPR to make chickens more resistant to bird flu. This is what they were talking about last year. They've been pushing the bird flu on the public for the last couple of years, and nobody has gotten suspicious about it because everybody who's talked about it has continued to get removed from platforms like this. But those types of people will continue to talk. They've been pushing the bird flu, not just to take chickens and eggs off the shelves, to get CRISPR inside of the chicken. So you might be saying to yourself, okay, what are you getting at? So they're not going to use this. Okay, yes, they're going to use this to, have supply chain shortages, but they're not going to make me go and get a shot, right? To prevent me from getting a chicken flu. No, but they're going to make it a requirement if you own chickens to have these chickens get this CRISPR shot to prevent any more spread of the bird flu now that humans can supposedly catch the bird flu. For those of you that don't know what CRISPR is, you should know. It's a segment of DNA containing short repetitions of base sequences involved in the defense mechanisms of prokaryotic organisms to viruses, a genetic engineering tool that uses a CRISPR sequence of DNA and its associated protein to edit the base pairs of a gene. In other words, it's gene editing, right? Now is it starting to connect the dots, but there's more. Because CRISPR, so you might say to yourself, well, I don't really care if they do that to a chicken as long as they don't do that to me. But guess what? CRISPR can be inherited, okay, from generation. So a shot of this magic potion of CRISPR to a chicken, guess what? That chicken that lays that egg, that is going to be a contaminated egg that's going to be circulating in our food supply chain. And if you're somebody out there, and again, you're probably most of you out there because I think the same way, right? We've all thought ahead of what we're going to do to prevent them from taking full control over our food and our lives, right? Well, they obviously, this is their game. They're playing these games on us. So they know that there's going to be people like us. Clearly, they're obsessed with us. They spend day in and day out silencing us. So they know that our plan is going to be to farm on our own, to garden on our own, and obviously a lot of you out there own chickens, right? So what the government is going to do with this eventually is they're going to say that anybody who owns chickens, the state is going to be required to come in and make sure that the chickens that you own, we won't take your chickens, we won't euthanize your chickens and make people suspicious, but we're going to want to make sure your chickens have the updated correct shots. That way, we don't have to worry about the bird flu going to your neighbor, going to you, going to whatever else out there. And everybody's going to be forced into compliance. Thus, CRISPR will then be inside of all chickens from every grocery store, including every farmer's market that you go to, including your own backyard. They will make sure that they can get this gene editing inside of people. And this is another way that they've come up with. And I talked about this 2 years ago. There were going to be other methods to how they did this. And this was one of the ways. Because again, you probably heard stories, right, about women who took the magic potion, who breastfed and then were able to pass stuff to their children. Well, this will be no different because the CRISPR being inside and the nano being inside of these chickens will then kill off the chickens in the food supply chain because you either have a choice. You're either going to keep your chickens away from these people who are going to try to get it in them, or you're going to have to get your chicken to get this magic potion, and thus you're going to have a contaminated chicken. Now, they'll tell everybody that it's a conspiracy theory. They'll tell everybody that people like me and you are nuts, that CRISPR cannot be inherited, even though they tell us it can be inherited from one generation to the next. They'll probably try, just like with shedding, they'll try to take this and say, well, that's not true. No, it can't be passed like that. Just like they took something which used to be science, like shedding, and they said that everybody out there who was claiming shedding was going on was a complete conspiracy nut, even though it's an actual factual thing that occurs. And we can look back at viruses from the past and the potions that came in and how people were shedding the potion of an actual live virus onto other people. And of course, we've seen how they conveniently have changed science because maybe the most basic, can men have babies, is no longer apparently, common sense science. So they change it as they go. So here's just a little clip for those of you wondering about CRISPR, not to be confused with Crispix, the cereal. CRISPR, getting inside of people and being able to gene edit humans.
CRISPR is amazing because it allows us to precisely edit the DNA in living organisms, including in people and plants. With CRISPR, we can change, remove, or replace the genes that govern the function of cells. This means that we now have the ability to use CRISPR like a word processor to find, cut, and paste text.
This is DNA. It's the blueprint for making living things, from single-cell bacteria to plants to animals, including to humans. It influences almost every part of your physical being. The shape of your nose, the color of your eyes, sometimes your likelihood of getting certain diseases. But what if science could redraw your body's blueprint? What if it were possible to edit your DNA, insert new sequences that change inherited traits, or remove genes that cause disease? Well, now it is more possible than ever with CRISPR. CRISPR is a combination of a scissor-like protein, such as one called Cas9, and a guide molecule. The molecule acts as a bloodhound, taking CRISPR on the hunt to specific sites within the genome. Once there, the protein cuts the cell's DNA on the spot. That completely disables the targeted gene. The cells then repair their DNA. They put in a new DNA sequence that the bloodhound also carried, or simply patch up the break caused by CRISPR's molecular scissors. Enter tiny cellular machines called ribosomes. They translate the edited blueprint, producing healthy proteins that the repaired genes code for. CRISPR's ability to repair may be most important at the beginning of life. Edit the genome of a very early embryo, one created by in vitro fertilization, and couples who carry disease-causing mutations may be able to have children who are spared from them. Once a child is born with a genetic disease, such as Huntington's or Tay-Sachs, it is more difficult to use CRISPR to treat it. It's also being used to research and test treatments for cancer, blindness, and liver disease, among others. But CRISPR isn't just for humans. Scientists are already editing mosquitoes' genomes, hoping to stop the transmission of deadly diseases like malaria. And the potential of engineering microbes may open the door to a new world of medical and technological advances. When you can edit DNA's blueprint, the possibilities are vast.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. And of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications. And we have to be prepared for it, and that's what we want to do in Davos next year. So this fourth industrial revolution is, it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example, it's you who are changed.
So again, remember those famous quotes, right? That we've heard over and over and over again about changing you, about being able to change you. Literally, not change you as a person, not be like, oh, I want to change you. I want you to become a nicer person. They're literally manipulating genetic code. And this is what's going to come of this. Now, a lot of people, you're going to hear a lot of people talk about this, and the first thing to talk about is the food supply chain, and that's very important. And I'll get into that in a second about what the story is about the egg shortage now and about how many plants are going to shut down and how you're not going to be able to get eggs. And you're going to hear other people out there who are going to spin the tale of them pushing this on the humans. That will probably be a thing, but it's not going to be this big mandated thing. There will be actual human beings who are so gullible and so fearful of everything, of every snot in everybody's nose, that they'll probably go and get a shot in them that is actually for a bird that a human's now allowed to get, because they'll do whatever they're told because they're living in such fear and denial. So the story out there, again, scientists in the fall were using CRISPR to make chickens more resistant to bird flu. And they're going to get this into a lot of chickens out there, including probably chickens in our front and backyards, because ultimately, however they can get nanotech inside of you, they will do it. So the bird flu outbreak, the largest U.S. chicken egg producer, is now affecting egg prices as well as shortages. There is a halt and there's pretty much a pause, okay? A pause on factories producing eggs right now. Cal-Maine Foods, Inc., the largest producer of fresh eggs in the U.S., has temporarily halted production at one of its facilities in Texas after detecting bird flu there. The company says it depopulated, good terminology, it depopulated about 1.6 million laying hens and 337,000 pullets, or about 3.6% of its flock as a result of the outbreak. And what's amazing about this, again, is that this has been going on since 2022. It's now 2024. And they're continuing to depopulate these chickens all around the country. And the supply chain's getting worse and worse. Okay, there's less and less, there's shortages, and people out there are like, I don't see a shortage in my store. There are shortages and there are price increases. Okay, that's a double way and a double whammy on people. But again, they know people out there are going to try to do this stuff on their own, and they're going to try to have chickens in their own. We're seeing more people do it. I'm sure people listening to this channel have chickens in their lawn, in their backyard, wherever. I'm sure you farm chickens and you have eggs. Be forewarned. That's why I'm doing this video, to not just look at the story about the shortages, to look at the story about if they can't contain this outbreak, which they're proving to us on purpose they can't contain it because it's been going on for years, that, well, the options are going to be, they'll tell everybody, we could either euthanize all these, we could either, depopulate, as the article says, all these chickens and all the laying hens, and we can get rid of them and try to stop the spread, but we don't know, because what if another one has it and then it starts up again? So the only thing we could really do is make sure that every single chicken has this CRISPR potion in it, and then we won't have to worry about it anymore. But what you really should be worrying about when that happens is, what are the eggs passing into you? What are the chickens themselves passing into you? Because again, I can't emphasize it enough. The genetic changes in the DNA can be inherited to the next generation. So every chicken that lays an egg is going to lay an egg that has this inside of them, okay? And then when you eat these eggs, it's just another way to get it in you. Now, some people out there will look around and they'll go, well, I've already seen videos with graphene oxide and it's in the food and it's in the water and it's getting dumped from the sky. Very, very true. But we're talking about another direct method of getting this inside of you. And again, it has the ability to change you. Share this video with people so that they're aware, because again, a lot of people's brains aren't going to go from A to Z. They're going to go, boom, I hear about this story. Okay, we're having our supply chain's under attack. Yes, again, it's true. The second thing they're going to think of is, there's no way that they're going to roll out a magic potion. And they are. They're already talking about a human version of this to prevent humans from catching bird flu. But there's no way that 1/50th of the population is going to take that. Okay, just people with the word sucker tattooed on them, they will line up and get it. But this is ultimately, I believe, about CRISPR. And those stories that were out there resonating last year about scientists using this on chickens and making them more resistant to bird flu ultimately will be something that they could potentially mandate. And those chickens that are laying eggs, they're going directly into your refrigerator. And if you think you're growing these on your own and they're not going to have some type of regulation or control over it, think again. Think again, because they're going to show up. And then when you're sitting there, you're going to go, all right, well, now they're showing. Well, guess what? The treaty I talked about over on the website, the demic treaty that they're trying to pass, it gives authority to health organizations over the entire earth. They already have it, okay? Let's be real. But this will give them the authority, not the state. It'll give them the authority. They'll go to the state, and they're all working together, and they'll say, look, every single person who has a chicken farm or has more than 2 chickens in their property or more than a chicken, whatever, right? Well, we need to make sure that they all have this so we can prevent any more spread of it, because we can't contain it unless, of course, we have CRISPR in them, because CRISPR will prevent that from happening, and it'll make the birds resistant to the bird flu. That's how this stuff works, folks. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always, and your families.